Deep within the rainforests of an Indonesian island, there exists a community that walks between two worlds. Their bodies tell stories written in ink and ritual. Their spirits journey each night while their tattooed skin serves as a roadmap home. This is the world of the Sakuddei, and it's vanishing faster than anyone realizes. Welcome back. If you're fascinated by cultures that challenge everything we think we know about modern life, you're in the right place. Today, we're traveling to Siberut Island, 130 kilometers off the coast of Sumatra, to explore the Sakuddei people and their ancient rituals that most of the world has forgotten. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why their traditions hold wisdom that modern society desperately needs. But here's something that might surprise you: the rituals that kept these people in harmony with their world for centuries were once banned by their own government. And what happened next changed everything. Now, before we go deeper, I need to tell you something remarkable. The Sakuddei believe that every single thing around you, from the trees to the weather, from animals to even rocks, possesses its own independent spirit. And these spirits don't just exist. They wander. They travel while you sleep. But I'll explain why that matters, and how it connects to one of their most striking rituals, in just a few minutes. Trust me, it's not what you'd expect. The Sakuddei are one of at least 11 distinct communities living on Siberut, the largest island in the Mentawai archipelago. But they're not just another indigenous group. Anthropologists describe their society as something rare in human history, truly egalitarian. No chiefs. No rulers. No class system. No warfare. Men and women living as equals. They speak a dialect of the Mentawai language, part of the Malayo-Polynesian family, and for centuries, they've retreated deeper into Siberut's interior whenever outsiders tried to change their way of life. Their home is the rainforest, not as a backdrop, but as the very center of their existence. Traditional life revolves around the Uma, a ceremonial longhouse built along the rivers that serve as Siberut's highways. These structures aren't just buildings. They're the physical embodiment of community, with families living together in a delicate balance they've maintained for generations. But here's what makes the Sakuddei truly unique: their entire worldview is built on a foundation of spiritual animism that sees no separation between the physical and spiritual realms. Now here's where things get interesting. When Dutch colonizers first encountered the Sakuddei, one captain wrote in 1917 that their customs required charity and moral strength to be discouraged. But another European visitor had a completely different reaction. Sir Thomas Raffles described finding a population more likable still, and wondered if he might discover the Garden of Eden itself. Two vastly different perspectives on the same people. Which one was closer to the truth? Well, to understand that, we need to talk about spirits. Imagine living in a world where everything, and I mean everything, has a soul. Not just people or animals, but plants, rocks, weather patterns, even the tools you use daily. This is the foundation of Sakuddei belief. According to anthropologist Raymar Skifold, who lived among the Sakuddei for years, they understand that each spirit is separate from its host body and free to wander wherever it wishes. Think about that for a moment. Your spirit, in their worldview, leaves your body every night when you sleep. It goes on journeys. It has experiences separate from your physical form. And when morning comes, it needs to find its way back to the correct body. Which brings us to one of their most visually striking practices: tattoos. Every Sakuddei person has unique tattoo patterns covering their body. These aren't fashion statements or arbitrary designs. They're identification markers for wandering spirits. The intricate lines, dots, and patterns serve as a map, a signature, a way for your spirit to recognize which body is yours when it returns from its nightly travels. Without these markings, the Sakuddei believe your spirit might become lost, confused, unable to reunite with your physical form. But tattoos are just one part of a much larger spiritual ecosystem. The Sakuddei live in constant communication with the spirit world, and maintaining harmony with these invisible forces isn't optional, it's essential for survival. Now I'm curious, and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you believed your spirit traveled independently every night, would it change how you view your physical body? Would it change how you treat yourself, or others? It's a fascinating question when you really think about it. The Sakuddei aren't being superstitious, they're living according to a completely different understanding of consciousness itself. At the heart of Sakuddei's spiritual life are the sikerei, shamans who serve as healers, teachers, and caretakers of harmony. These aren't self-appointed mystics or religious leaders in any conventional sense. Becoming a sikerei requires years of intense training and carries significant responsibilities and restrictions. A sikerei must learn the properties of hundreds of jungle plants and herbs. They must master the history and traditions of their people. They must understand the complex relationships between humans, spirits, ancestors, and the natural world. And perhaps most importantly, they must undergo an initiation ceremony where the entire community gathers to witness their transformation. But here's what's truly remarkable: in Sakuddei society, shamans deliberately position themselves outside normal social structures. They abstain from certain foods, often practice sexual abstinence, and mark themselves with extensive tattoos that cover their bodies in intricate patterns. These patterns aren't random, they're said to represent the tree of life, the sago palm that sustains their community. The lines on their thighs represent the tree's trunk and veins. The dotted lines down their arms symbolize its fronds. The patterns on hands and ankles mirror roots and bark. And the curved lines across their chest represent the sago flower. The sikerei's tattoos tell us something profound: a healer cannot die as long as they remain part of the tree of life. In one remarkable valley, more than a quarter of adult men serve as shamans, despite the economic burden and strict taboos this creates. They receive no wealth or power for their service, only larger portions of sacrificial meat, which they must immediately share with everyone present. This is leadership without authority. Healing without hierarchy. But here's something most documentaries about indigenous cultures don't tell you. The Sakuddei's spiritual practices weren't slowly fading away through natural cultural evolution. They were targeted, banned, and criminalized. In the 1980s, Indonesia's district administration ordered all traditional ceremonies to stop. They demanded that shamans hand over their sacred objects, their medicine bundles, even their loincloths. Police stripped shamans of everything that identified them. And this happened while international conservation organizations were on the island, more concerned with saving primates than protecting indigenous human rights. Sakuddei rituals aren't performances. They're essential maintenance of the cosmic balance between humans and the spirit world. Let me break down the three most important types. First, there are healing ceremonies. When someone falls ill, the Sakuddei don't see it as random misfortune or simply biological disease. Illness means that harmony has been disrupted. Perhaps someone broke a taboo. Perhaps they acted recklessly and angered spirits that inhabit the jungle. The sikerei's job is to diagnose the spiritual cause and restore balance through ceremony, plant medicine, and communication with the spirits. Second, there are sacrificial rituals. Anthropologist Raymar Skifold documented how the Sakuddei classified these sacrifices based on two factors: the degree of familiarity with the spirits being addressed, and how specific the hope for reciprocation might be. Some sacrifices honor ancestors. Others appease potentially dangerous spirits. Some seek blessings for fertility and harvest. Each requires precise knowledge and careful execution. Third, and perhaps most poignant, there are life cycle ceremonies. When a young person comes of age, when families form, when elders pass away, these transitions require rituals that acknowledge both the physical and spiritual dimensions of existence. Here's what's fascinating: these rituals aren't about controlling nature or spirits. They're about maintaining relationships. The Sakuddei see themselves as participants in an ongoing conversation with the world around them. Spirits aren't commanded or dominated, they're negotiated with, honored, appeased, and thanked. And the consequences of breaking this harmony? The Sakuddei believe that reckless behavior, disrespect for taboos, or failure to maintain proper spiritual hygiene will result in spirits of disease emerging from the jungle to punish the offender. So here's a question for you. In our modern world, we often treat nature as something to be controlled or exploited. But what if the Sakuddei are onto something? What if viewing ourselves as participants in an ongoing relationship with our environment, rather than masters of it, is actually the wiser approach? Drop your thoughts below. I read every comment. Now we come to the heartbreaking part of this story. In the early 1990s, a Jakarta-based company planned to convert Siberut's rainforests into palm oil plantations. Surveys mapped nearly the entire island for planting, leaving only a narrow strip around the perimeter. 2 telecommunications towers went up. The modern world wasn't just arriving, it was bulldozing its way in. But the assault on Sakuddei culture began much earlier. Italian missionaries started conversion efforts in 1912. By the 1980s, government modernization campaigns forced people from their jungle villages into government-created settlements. Traditional practices like tattooing and tooth filing were banned as pagan and savage. Livestock, the economic foundation of Sakuddei life, was prohibited in these new settlements. Christianity and Islam were mandatory, animism was outlawed. And here's the tragedy that doesn't get enough attention. While this cultural genocide was happening, international conservation organizations like UNESCO and the World Wildlife Fund were present on the island. But their primary concern was saving Siberut's primates, not its indigenous people. Aman Nusak, an aging Sakuddei leader, captured the generational divide perfectly. My children are not like me. I wanted to tattoo them, and they refused. They want to be modern. If that's what they want, it's fine with me. But I like my tattoos and my loincloth. I am Mentawai until I die. Think about that statement. Here's someone watching his entire world dissolve, his children choosing wristwatches and radios over traditional knowledge, and he accepts it with grace while quietly asserting his own identity until his last breath. Today, only about 1% of the Mentawai population actively practices traditional customs, isolated to the southern regions of Siberut. The rest have lost connection with ancestral ways. The sikerei are aging. The young are leaving. The rainforest is shrinking. But before you think this is just another story about indigenous cultures inevitably disappearing, something unexpected happened. In recent years, international media attention brought tourists to Siberut. And suddenly, the same government that once banned shamanistic practices realized these traditions had economic value. Shamans were once again permitted to wear traditional dress and perform ceremonies. Which raises a complicated question: is cultural survival that depends on tourist dollars actually survival at all? So what can modern society learn from the ancient Sakuddei rituals we've nearly forgotten? Let me give you 3 powerful insights. First, the Sakuddei understand something we've lost: true egalitarianism. No hierarchy doesn't mean no order. It means that leadership emerges through service, knowledge, and community trust, not through power or wealth accumulation. The sikerei heal because they must, not because it makes them rich or powerful. Imagine what our world might look like if leadership functioned that way. Second, their approach to the environment isn't sentimental, it's practical. By viewing every element of nature as possessing spirit and agency, they create a psychological framework that prevents exploitation. You can't casually destroy something you believe has a soul and relationships. You can't clear-cut a forest if you understand trees as relatives in an ongoing conversation. Their animism isn't superstition, it's sophisticated ecological philosophy. Third, and perhaps most importantly, the Sakuddei recognize that maintaining harmony requires constant work. Their rituals aren't occasional celebrations, they're regular maintenance of relationships with each other, with their environment, with their ancestors, and with the spirit world. In our modern lives, we often act as if relationships can be neglected until crisis forces attention. The Sakuddei know better. But here's the uncomfortable truth: we can appreciate these lessons while also recognizing that the Sakuddei themselves should have the right to choose their own path forward. Cultural preservation efforts often become another form of colonialism when they prioritize outside observers' desires over indigenous agency. The children who reject tattoos aren't traitors, they're making choices in a rapidly changing world. The future of Sakuddei rituals hangs in the balance. Deforestation continues. Palm oil remains profitable. Young people increasingly choose modern life. Conservation efforts focus more on ecosystems than cultural systems. And tourism, while providing economic incentive for cultural preservation, also transforms living traditions into performances. Organizations like the World Wildlife Fund work to monitor conditions on Siberut, but the Mentawai people themselves control less than 20% of their ancestral lands. The rest is state-managed, leaving indigenous communities with little voice in decisions affecting their territory and future. Yet pockets of resistance remain. Some Sakuddei communities have retreated even deeper into the interior, choosing isolation over assimilation. Others are finding ways to blend traditional knowledge with modern realities. The story isn't over, but it's being written right now, and the ending is far from certain. The future of Sakuddei rituals hangs in the balance. Deforestation continues. Palm oil remains profitable. Young people increasingly choose modern life. Conservation efforts focus more on ecosystems than cultural systems. And tourism, while providing economic incentive for cultural preservation, also transforms living traditions into performances. Organizations like the World Wildlife Fund work to monitor conditions on Siberut, but the Mentawai people themselves control less than 20% of their ancestral lands. The rest is state-managed, leaving indigenous communities with little voice in decisions affecting their territory and future. Yet pockets of resistance remain. Some Sakuddei communities have retreated even deeper into the interior, choosing isolation over assimilation. Others are finding ways to blend traditional knowledge with modern realities. The story isn't over, but it's being written right now, and the ending is far from certain. The ancient Sakuddei rituals that modern society forgot weren't forgotten by accident. They were actively suppressed, banned, and criminalized. What survived did so through resilience, isolation, and ultimately, through the complicated dynamics of cultural tourism. These aren't rituals from a dead past, they're living practices held by real people making real choices about their futures. The wisdom they contain about egalitarian community, environmental relationships, and spiritual harmony remains relevant whether or not the Sakuddei themselves choose to continue these traditions. That's the paradox, we've learned the lessons. The question is whether we'll apply them. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. And here's my question for you. If you could preserve one aspect of Sakuddei wisdom for future generations, which would it be and why? Leave your answer in the comments. The most thoughtful response will get pinned. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep honoring the diverse ways humans make meaning in this world.